On Tuesday, the new investors and FX window of the Nigeria's FX market, well, not really entirely new. We're just 365 days. So, looks fresh. Yeah, not fresh. New a little bit. Well, it's new because we've never traveled that road before. So we had the one-year anniversary on Tuesday, the 24th, when that market started trading on FMDQ, OTC Securities Exchange. And since Monday, we've been trying to put some of this conversation in some context, looking back and looking forward. Part of that is being done this morning from the macroeconomic point of view, the road we've traveled, and what's the learning curve here, both the fiscal and the monetary authorities from Vectiva Capital Management, Michael Famuloti, the chief economist. Good morning. It's good to have you here.
Morning.
We appreciate your time. Give us some background, the macro background to the current I&E FX market we have.
Okay, well, it's a long story, so I'll try and summarize it. But it all started from about midway through 2014 when the oil price crash occurred, and it became apparent that the Naira at that level was overvalued. A number of oil exporters devalued or allowed their currency to depreciate, but the central bank was unwilling and only took about a 15% depreciation in 18 months. To put that in context, a country like Angola took 30%, and we are quite similar in our export profile. So what that did was that it scared off a lot of investors, and it dried up dollar supply in the country. And people will remember that, especially from about late 2015 and through 2016, it was very hard to get dollars because the CBN imposed a lot of capital controls. And that really brought the economy to a halt because of how dependent we are on dollars for raw materials, medical bills, education, and so on. So that was really significant. I think the peak of the crisis, or the worst part of the crisis, probably came in early 2017 when the black market rate hit about 500 Naira, and it seemed like, you know, it was going to be the end of the world.
We're losing it all.
Exactly. But luckily at the time, after OPEC agreed to freeze output, the oil prices started trickling up. The Niger Delta situation calmed down, and suddenly oil earnings were back up, and the CBN was able to start selling dollars again. Subsequently, I think that was in about February. Subsequently, in April, they decided that actually perhaps let's create a separate window to allow the market float and encourage investors to bring in their dollars and see what happened. And that experiment has worked out.
If you look at our FX market, historically speaking, we've driven this economy largely since the oil boom on oil.
Yeah.
So, what the events of 2014, 2015 to 2016 reveal about the state or the macro state of our economy?
Well, it's precisely what you said. I think a lot of people knew it, but it's one thing to know it and it's another thing to experience it. And it's that oil dependency. A lot of people will mention that the oil sector is only 10% of the economy. But when you factor in the fact that it is our primary source of dollar earnings, and dollars are important for manufacturing, they're important for services and so on, you realize that oil then has a strategic importance in the economy. That's something that was exposed.
Well, if you look at, does that speak to the structure of the FX market we've had? We've had various structure of FX that sometimes become very difficult to know precisely what are you folks really, what are we really doing with the FX? We have FEM, we have IFEM, we've had whatever. It looks like every administration seemed to just have its own FX market, whatever the central bank at the point at that point thought about, we just keep fucking out FX with kind of reckless abandon.
Well, I think it stems from the desire to sort of manage the market because it is so important. So the alternative would be to have just a regular single FX market that would be free-floating. The danger there, obviously, is that the economy has to absorb any shocks that come from the external environment. So if oil prices crash, that is going to feed directly to the exchange rate and will affect the prices of goods and services in the market. So I think that's the core reason why since about the 1980s, we've tried to, in different ways, just like you said, create particular unique forms of the markets. Most times we have had multiple markets or multiple exchange rates, and the CBN has played an active role in allocating dollars, whether it's through its auctions or, as they've been doing now, interventions in the INE window.
Auctions versus interventions. They're not exactly the same, are they?
Well, it's difficult to really tease out the differences, but I think context matters a lot. So the auctions I was referring to were the, I think, WDAS window auctions and so on. And those came from a place of strength. They were built into the structure of the markets. Investors were used to it. Banks liked them. And they were just part of a wider market architecture. These interventions, at some point, you may want to stop calling them that because they're now part of the usual program, and they've almost morphed into the auction system where we know that every Monday or Tuesday or so, the CBN steps in to sell dollars in the market.